So, let's talk about the nut job.
Well, I can say that this film is a good example of an entire disaster, and give the credit to Harvey Weinstein to make that up. What he did is that he took the 2005 animated short called Salty Squirrel and turned that into an over an hour animated feature. And of course, this film did not get a good start for the film industry, and even for its sequel, where it had a lot of negative reviews, critics, and audiences didn't even think that this film would be pleasant to watch. Uh, And now going to be suspecting this film just like how I used to. So now that into watching into this film, will I have a change of mind into thinking that I'd be liking this film like in my kids' days, but now I don't like it? Or is this film a shite job? Well, so basically, the story revolves around a squirrel named Surly, who is trying to get nuts outside of the park. While the one incident happened with him and some of the other characters, that even leads to like a tree to get blown up into flames and still try to look for nuts until winter comes. Until then, Surly he tries to go find his nuts alone with his own sidekick named Buddy, which finds a job shop, or if you want to call it whatever, where he actually finds a place that has full of nuts and wants to get himself. But then there's another character called Andy who finds this as an advantage to give all the nuts to all the animals in the park. Uh, so it's either up to Sully to have a character arc either into get nuts for himself or for everyone else. I mean, the big problem with this film is, well, I know too sure this is a big one since there are other big problems out there, but the minor issue with this film is just when it plays safe. I mean, sure, I know this is the animation studio's first anime film they made, but everything doesn't feel like grand or even something special. Like it just comes off as another generic animated kids film. What makes this film even more despicable is with the humor and its tone. Its tone is mostly filled with the characters just betraying each other and just thinking that they're either dead or gone for like 10 minutes and then they just come back. And even for like the humor isn't that good at all, since it's mostly filled with burping, farting, and nut puns that makes the experience even in painful and sufferable. Which makes this film even more unpleasant to watch for kids. Yeah, I can even say that this could be one of the more darkest anime films out there, even if for like a mean-spirited film like this. I mean, I do see that it does have an interesting concept. Well, not a very great one since it would be just okay at best, but the execution of this film is a complete disaster. And even the characters themselves are responsible for the story being just a complete mess. Yes, and even the characters aren't even likable to begin with. And a good example of that are Surly, played by Will Arnett, and Grayson, played by Brendan Fraser. In the case of Surly, he's always such an asshole throughout the whole films when he just treats the other animals like trash, especially towards Buddy. Where he's also trying to grow an arc where he's trying to like be a good guy and help out the others, but it's just plain out predictable and kind of feels forced. And even for Grayson, God, why is this guy even had to be played by Brendan Fraser? I mean, we all know that he plays Scorch Supernova from Escape from Planet Earth, and he's literally just the same character. Just a brown overbrained, dumb type and character who's just way too despicable and just plain out annoying. I mean, it's just quite hard to know who's worse, Surly or Grayson. And as for like the other characters, I mean, sure, there are some bit of exceptions too, like Raccoon being like one of those characters who always has such a grudge against Surly, and or as he likes to call him, actually to that. And of course, there's Precious, who's also a like a pug who's basically like taken by the owners, which are mostly the robbers, which I'll get to later. And her type of comedy is kind of unnecessary and a bit unpleasant. And as for the robbers themselves, as I saw, they're not really too special, but I wish they were the main characters. But at least there are two characters that are a bit of an exception, like Andy, who is trying to help some of the animals to get food, so at least she becomes less likable, and Buddy, who's honestly my favorite character of the movie, who's mostly like a Cyan type character who's always on Sully's side, even if he kind of treats him like trash. So I'll give that Buddy is an actually good and likable character, and probably might be the best one. I mean, sure, Mo can have some funny moments, but not too much. As for the other characters, they're just mostly used for like gags and just the mean-spirited tone as well. So as a result, the characters are not as the greatest and mostly comes off as unpleasant jerks, with some bit of an exception. And even through the bad story and despicable characters, at least that the only good thing I can say about this film is that it does bring out some decent animation. I mean, for all, the character designs have that nice animal designs on them, and even for like the humans as well. Well, they mostly have some good textures with their hair and some of the fur on the animals. Yes, and the character animation is still smooth, keeping out that Looney Tunes feeling, but I don't know if it needs a little work on that, to be fair. And even for like the backgrounds, they're not really interesting to look at or anything like that. They're just like generic type backgrounds you would just see in anime films, and it's nothing really too special. I mean, it's not bad, but not, yeah. I mean, I'll at least say that at least something that, I mean, there's nothing, at least something in this film that is actually good. This is something that's actually good to look at than rather to like listen or just watch that. The Nut Job is just an unpleasantly generic kids film that is just totally not worth watching. The writing is an absolute joke. The story is so generic and yet has so many very mean-spirited tones in it. The animation, while decent at best, doesn't really give out much, and the characters are just another way from being a complete ass, with some bit of exceptions, but the others are just a plain despicable way to go. And even especially for the comedy, where it's just so despicable. I would just recommend you to not watch this film and rather watch the 2005 short instead. Sure, they're basically the same thing, but at least this one's a lot shorter and actually less mean-spirited and actually quite entertaining to watch. But in this film, this may not be one of the, like, around some of the worst Harvey Weinstein films like Dougal, Escape from Planet Earth, or Hoodwink 2 Hood vs. Evil. But this is just an ordinary bad film, and that's why I'm giving this the 0 bad. I guess they should rename this from the Nut Job to the Shit Job.
Next time on Kyle's Past Reviews is...
Shh. Let me penetrate your aura.
Why?
Korma lindu akaelia.